welcome to my Flosstube channel, Thread the Needle. My name is Vani and I'm coming to you from Newfoundland, Canada. So, like I said, this is my Flosstube channel. This is where I discuss everything full coverage cross stitch, everything I like to do. And if you are here for the first time or you've only been here a couple of times, thanks for joining me. And if you're a returning viewer, thanks for coming back. So like I said, full coverage, who doesn't love it? I know I do. So we have, I've come down from my high of my Stitch North retreat, and I've gotten back into routine of life, of work, family, stitching, regular stitching. It was a little bit of a letdown after such a, it's like you were in a cocoon when you were at Stitch North and everything around you was stitching related. And then you come home and it's like, oh no, stitching is only a part of your life. Anyway, I did manage to get back into a bit of a routine and into a bit of a rhythm with stitching. I did a little bit of stitching on my anniversary piece, but again, related to Stitch North, because we were up late every night, it took me a few days to kind of get back into a routine, and I wasn't able to stay up as late as I normally would for my stitching nights at home. So the anniversary piece didn't get as much done, and I think it'll be good for me to save it and show you the progress on it the next time. But let's move on. So I think I mentioned last time that I was close to the end of my rotation wheel and I'd have to refresh the wheel with all the projects and keep going again. So that's what I did. So right before I was able to refresh it, I had 2 more projects left on it. And one of those projects was Sunflower Bee. And this is a pretty easy-ish stitch because I'm still working on a lot of background, so there's not a lot of confetti and it's just straight stitching, and I believe I picked 18 count, so it's an easy count of fabric for me to work on. I really enjoy it. So here is, and oh right, so that's what I wanted to say. So it was my second last project in my rotation before I finished completed the wheel, and I'd have to respin it. So I stitched on it, and then I stitched the last project, which I'll show you after this, which was World Traveler Bookshelf. Then I added all the projects back to the wheel, and when I respun it, it landed on Sunflower Bee again. So that gave me the opportunity, and then I was like, do I want to just stick it back in and respin it and see if it'll pick a project that I haven't done in a while? And then I was like, you know what? No, because the first time I got maybe halfway through the diagonal and I thought, okay, this will give me a chance to completely finish the diagonal. So that's what I did. Here is Sunflower Bee with another full diagonal complete. So it's still a lot of shading, a lot of gray greens and stuff. And then as you get down here, it's a little more darker. There's a bit of brown in there. I don't know if you can you, there we go. Is the shading right? Yeah. So there's a bit of dark brown and black in this corner and a little bit of brown there, but mostly it's this, it's like army camouflage. That's what the colors remind me of. So still not a lot going on, but an easy, it was a good project to get back into routine with, you know what I mean? So the stats on that are Sunflower Bee, to complete that diagonal in with both kind of sessions put in, I completed 1,402 stitches. So that's your complete diagonal there from top to bottom. And I believe that, I think that's the bottom of the page. So the next diagonal, I usually do it in that like zigzag pattern. So that's what I'll probably do along the bottom. So 1,400 stitches, and that meant I spent about, that doesn't seem right. I must not have calculated all of it, but I've got 4 hours and 34 minutes calculated, so I'll add that to the average, but likely I spent probably double that amount of time on it. Yeah, I wasn't really, this last session, I wasn't really good at turning the timer on every time I started stitching. Again, it's like you do something so out of routine and then it's like so strange to go back to the things that you were doing. I'm just glad I kept track of the stitches. Now, so in between the two sessions of Sunflower Bee, the last project on the rotation wheel was one of my favorites, World Travel Bookshelf. World Travel Bookshelf, I think I'll give you these numbers first. I did about 3 hours and 53 minutes, so about 4 hours. I'm wondering if I'm missing some time on that too. I mean, it could be real. Maybe I'm just getting faster, or maybe it was just an area of block stitching. Could be. I got 714 stitches in. So I believe the number of stitches. I'm not sure if I remember. I believe the time that I spent on it. So next time around, I should have a more accurate time versus stitches put in, because I'm getting better at remembering to turn the clock on. Okay, so here's where I'm at with my World Travel Bookshelf. I'm trying to, there we go, fold it in a way that I can show you exactly what's been done. So here is where I am with that. So this is the area that I was working on. This filled in quite nicely. And then we are going down into here. I'm wondering what the next piece of detail is going to be, because there's so much detail in this and you really can't see it until you kind of put it away. Like for the longest time, when you're stitching up close, you don't realize what it is you're stitching on. Like this thing right here, until I completed that area, it's a book. It's a bookend. So I couldn't even remember. I couldn't even figure that out until afterwards. So that's kind of fun. That's what I find really fun about this piece, is that there's so much detail in it that a lot of it doesn't come out until you take it off the frame and you step back and you look at it. But it's one of my all-time favorites to stitch on. Yeah, I love it. Love how the Taj Mahal came out. Absolutely gorgeous. Beautiful. Let's see. Next up was Mini Moose Crossing. Now I was getting kind of in a groove with this one, and I just continued stitching on it for more than my normal, like 400 to 500 stitches. Just over. I spent, see, this sounds real. I spent 5 hours and 12 minutes on it, and I got 557 stitches in. Here we are. So I managed to almost finish this diagonal, and I've started to bounce over into the next diagonal here. And as always, this one is such a treat to work on. And the detail in the trees and the pine needles, it's all so much fun. And I can't wait to get into the actual moose there. So that should be a lot of joy to stitch on. Yeah, I like that one. Okay, then, you may or may not remember, in my last video, I mentioned that I had bought some fabric from Kaylee and the sewing shop. And I was kind of doing it backwards because I had no projects in mind when I bought the fabric. I kind of do it backwards. I get the fabric first, and then I try and find a project that'll fit for it. And some of my... we started a group chat with my friends who were all sitting together at Stitch North, and we still message each other, and they all remembered which fabric I had bought. And so one of them suggested, it was Pam, she also on Flosstube, Pam's Crafty Corner. She suggested Birds and Blooms Garden by Heaven and Earth Design, because she knows I love Heaven and Earth Designs. And she suggested that I stitch that without the background on that gray fabric that I bought from Kaylee. So I thought that is actually a really good idea. So thank you, Pam. And I'm going to show you the fabric first, not all of it, because I obviously don't want us to show you the stitched part first. How am I going to do this? All right, let's do it this way. So this is the fabric. So it's a long rectangular piece. So it fits the project perfectly. And who doesn't love a new start? I know I do. And I decided to make it my Mother's Day new start. So that is what I did. On Mother's Day, I did what I love most. I stitched all day. We had a couple other, Mother's Day events that, were happening. But for the majority of the day, I got to just sit, relax, and stitch my little heart out. And it was the best. I actually got a lot of stitching done on Saturday too, because our stitching group, our local stitching group, met and I hosted. So we were at my house. I stitched the afternoon away and partly into the weekend as well. So I couldn't ask for a better Mother's Day weekend. It was the best. So I got, in total on this Mother's Day piece, I spent 4 hours and 13 minutes. And I got just under 800 stitches in. I got 799 stitches in. I'm going to explain to you what method I'm going here. So here is how much I got done. There's no before picture. So here, this is how much I got done. Now, the reason I've decided to stitch in this method is because I could start my normal upper left-hand corner. However, that is where some of the background is going to be that I don't want to stitch on, because I'm trying not to stitch on the background. So then I was trying to figure out what is the best way. So this is the tag. The color is called Winter's Dream and it's 20 count. I've never stitched on 20 count. So it's actually kind of fun. My friend Leanne keeps telling me that 20 count is kind of the best, and I kind of have to agree with her. It's not quite as big as 18, which this one is, but it's not as small as 22, which I don't have a 22 here. Probably have a 22 here, right? So it's kind of like in between, and I kind of like it. So I think I might start doing more on 20 count whenever I start a new project. So it was very difficult. Well, not too difficult, but it was a bit hard for me to figure out exactly what symbols were background. Some were easier to pick out than others. But I thought if I started in an area that actually had part of the flora and fauna in the project, I could better pick out the areas that I don't want to stitch on, if that makes any sense at all. But I still wanted to stitch on the diagonal because I really like the way it develops. So I thought, and then it's a long, narrow piece like the World Travel Bookshelf. And that's really cool to keep working page here before you move on that way, rather than going all the way across the top and then the bottom row. So I thought, I still want to move down in this way, but how do I figure out what's what? So long story short, this is the bottom of the first page. So I decided to start here and go in a diagonal all the way there and above. That way I'm able to pick out where the background is as I go. So this here is the first bit of stitched in the very top of the project. It's like a leafy vine thing. And this whole area here won't be stitched because it's the background. And I think somewhere in the middle here, maybe there might be a little bit of background. There might be bits and pieces of background that I do stitch here. Most of the time, I'm able to pick it out because it's a lot of pinks and blues. Let me see if I can show you without glare. Okay, so, let's see how this is going to work. Okay, that's not too bad glare. Okay, hang on. Okay, so this is the area. So this top of that red flower is where I'm starting. So I'm stitching this upper corner here. So as you can see, most of the background is these pinky purple colors, and there's a little bit right here, and there's some right here in and around that vine, and all the way up here. So most of it I'm going to be able to pick out. Some will be difficult, like in between that leaf and this area. I'm I can't really tell for sure, but yeah, I think there is some background there. Oops. Some background and some not. So I thought that was the best way. So this is by Amy Stewart, by the way, and oh my gosh, it is like so beautiful. It's going to be a lot of fun to stitch, but that top row until I get to the top of the fence, it's going to be a little bit hit or miss when it comes to trying to figuring out what the background stitches are and what aren't. We'll play it by ear. There might be a little bit of frogging. That's why I want to start with the details first. But let me tell you, it was really, really fun to stitch on this little bit itty bitty section of bright red. It looks like a poppy, and I haven't stitched with those kind of colors in a long time, and it was uber fun. The rest of this was just a bunch of green shades, but I'm really happy with how this is developing. I'm trying to decide if I want to add it to the rotation or if I just want to keep it as my relaxing Sunday stitch. I think I might, just because I love it so much, and it's new and it's shiny like a new shiny penny, and I just want to stitch on it all the time, but I can't because I have other loves. So I might have it as my relaxing Sunday afternoon stitch for the next little while at least, and then we'll move on. So that's it for today. What else is on the go? We've got a busy summer, so I'm hoping I'll still be able to kind of get some regular routine stitching in. My daughter's graduating from high school, so there's a lot of things going on with that. We've got cap and gown ceremonies, we've got the family graduation party, we've got the prom, and all that good fun stuff. So it's going to be a busy summer. And then, yeah, and the weather's already starting to warm up a little bit. I know to you that might not sound very warm, but we've already hit like double digits, and it's getting warm, people. Yeah, today it almost felt like 14, 15 degrees, and it was great. Everyone's out in shorts and t-shirts already. That's Newfoundland for you. But yeah, it's actually really nice to see the sun. Everyone is just so much happier when the sun is outside. When it's like rainy, drizzly, and foggy, it's like so gloomy and everyone's in a bad mood, especially if it lasts for months and months, which it can here. But we all do things that get us out of that funk. For me, it's stitching. So thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me for these few minutes, and listening to me while I go on and on about full coverage cross stitch. I did not change the background scenery from the last video because I didn't have time, but how about just as a bonus, I'll just go over what projects I have here. This one here is my London piece. It's on 22 count, full coverage, 1/1 full cross. This one is hopefully my first and maybe only finish of 2023. This is, why am I blanking on this? Oh my gosh. I don't know why I'm blanking, but here, hang on. I got my trusty pattern keeper here. This is, and I'm going to, Enchanted Garden. I don't know why I didn't remember that, but love this piece. Love the fabric. I think I'm going to have it framed without matting and show the fabric around it. It's going to be lovely. Then over here we have our first installment of the 7 Deadly Sins. This is Avarice. Then over there, oh sorry, this was 18 count. This is 22 count. 2/1, 2/1. That one over there is Mini Little Dreamer's Tree on 18 count, 2/1. My favorite owl is Sleepy Owlet by the Cross Stitch Studio. All these are Heaven and Earth. This one is Cross Stitch Studio, and it is 18 count, 2/1 full cross. And another favorite, this is Ganesh, 18 count, 2/1 full cross. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm just so amazed every time I look at them. They're so beautiful, and they're working up so wonderfully. I'm happy with how they're all turning out. So again, thanks for joining me here today, and I can't wait to see you again next time. Bye everyone.